everybody, this is Sean at morninglifter.com, and today I'm going to talk to you about setting up your lever arms for belt squat off of a Titan X3 rack. So let's take a look. First thing that we have to do to get set up is you have to actually change out the handles for the lever arm. Mine are already changed out, but you'll notice that yours will have bolts that will go in. So right here you would have a bolt and a bolt, and all I did was I unscrewed those bolts and I repurposed them. You'll see here later. But unscrew those bolts, and then you'll need to go and you'll need to buy hitch pins. So I have 4 hitch pins, 2 in one lever arm, 2 in the other. And those hitch pins will serve as your new bolt. So you can take a look here. You can get these on Amazon. I actually picked up 6 of them. I have 4 for both lever arms, and then I have 2 that I usually use as support, or I'll use them for my leg press attachment. So make sure to get those hitch pins. You can get 4-inch or 5-inch length. 4-inch would probably be the best. And they are 5/8 inch in diameter. So they go in really well. They're very strong, they're very sturdy. You'll get very, very little wiggle. Now, what I had to do, because the ones that I got the first time were actually 5 inches long, so I had to actually get myself some wood spacers. So that's why you see this in any of my photos. This is actually a wood spacer. Now, when you go to set up the lever arm, you'll need to remove all four of your hitch pins to get yourself what I just call a naked arm. And the removal process is really easy. All you have to do, you can see here, there's your lever arm handle, and then here's the weight post. So this just comes right apart like so, and then you just set those down out of the way. And now you've got your lever arm. The next part then is to actually adjust the arm itself and set it up for the actual belt squat, and that's what we'll do next. The next step is to set up your lever arm in the right position for your belt squat. Now, I'm a pretty tall guy, so I have to make sure that my lever arm is the right position. It's right below my waist is where, for me, the best setup is. Depending on your height, it's gonna depend on where you have your setup. So it's something that you're gonna have to play around with a little bit through trial and error to figure out where it fits you best. That was probably, I would say, the hardest thing to do. But once you find that sweet spot, the setup goes really, really fast. Initially, when I first started doing this, it took some time, but now that I have a system down, I can get everything changed out in probably under 5 minutes. So it's just a matter of knowing the steps and what you have to do and where everything goes. And once you get that down in place, it's really easy to do. So once I picked up the X3 lever arm adjustable kit, it really improved changing time, The DIY that I had posted earlier about setting up your own adjustable lever arms, it was functional and useful, but it was time consuming because things were a little bit tighter. But now that I have this, things go a lot better, and it's actually designed for these lever arms. So for me, when I get set up, the first thing I do, you pop out the pin, you pull the arm up, and then it just slides right out. So these ends are pretty heavy, so you have to keep that in mind. You always have to put support on that. And I know I have my preset already. This is where I set up my lever arm every time. That's something, again, that you'll have to look at. You put your hitch pin in, secure it. Okay, so now you're set up in terms of height. The next thing is you're going to need a kickstand. If you look at Sorinex, they've got one that's built in. I don't have a built-in kickstand. You could certainly build one, but I found something that I already can use, so it's not something that I feel is a need for myself. What it is I just have a mini deadlift jack, and I use that. I've been using that since I first started doing belt squats, and this works just fine. I actually just reverse it and turn it upside down, lift the lever arm up. I use this rubber piece right here, the rubber stop. I set the rubber stop right down on top of the jack, and then it sits nice and secure and snug, and everything's set to go. So now once you've got your lever arm, the next step is actually taking your weight posts and then connecting it to the arm itself. All right, so let's look at setting up your weight posts. So I have the first weight post from this lever arm, and then I have the second weight post from my other lever arm. Now remember, a lever arm squat, you're only going to get about 60% of usable weight because of the weight distribution in the lever arm and everything else. So this is something that you'll have to play around with too, is figuring out where the weight posts best fit for you. Again, because of my size, I have found that setting up the weight posts the 7th notch up works the best, and that's about halfway up. So I just set them up one at a time. It doesn't matter which side you go with first, so I'll just count 7 up, and then I'll insert my first pin, and I still have my spacers, and I'll set that up right inside here, and then I'll add my second weight post with the spacer as well. I'll just let those hang, and then all I need to do is take my connector pin and I'll connect these two together. So that puts this in place. Now all I have to do is finish up connecting the other side. Now what's important here is, if you notice, the handle for this hitch pin extends out past the very beginning of the weight post. So in order to keep the weight on each side even, you want to make sure you go opposite directions. Okay, so if your hook is sitting out this way for this first row, you need to go the opposite way when you set up your next one. So I'm going to go the opposite way here, line everything up, and my connector pin, and now I'm all set to go. And so you've got a pretty good section here. Everything's really, really sturdy. Again, there's no problems here. And then you got your other hitch pin. You'll go and connect, and it doesn't matter which way you go. You'll slide this through at the very end, because that's where your chain for your squat, your belt squat, is the actual belt. That's where this is going to go. And then you'll be able to squat from this position with the weight set up here. So what you do now is very simple. You just add your weight. It'll connect together. And now you've got even distribution from the ends of your pin. Yeah, you do have a little bit of gap, but that's okay, given the fact that this is pretty much like a do-it-yourself. Not everything is going to be perfect. You can get smaller hitch pins, but I like these because it's uniform and it's easy to grab. So once you're set up with that, I always add clips for safety. I lift alone, so for me, safety is a big important factor. And now you're all set up with your belt squat, ready to go. The last thing that I did when I was setting up my belt squat on my lever arm was I wanted to add a leverage bar. If you look at a lot of the different types of belt squat machines out there, you'll see that they all come with that locking leverage bar when you open or close the machine. If you look at Sorenex, for example, they've got that great attachment for specific belt squats, but they don't have a leverage bar. As I was going through the process, I knew I wanted something like that, and the best solution to that came from using a pull-up bar on my power rack. So I didn't use this, and it came with the rack, and I just never found myself actually using this bar. So I was able to repurpose it, and I added it in as my leverage bar. So I connected it with two 2x4s, and I drilled, my first hole was 2 inches down from the top. And then I connected with the same bolts that go with the lever arm handles and weight posts. So I was able to repurpose that. I drilled the holes, bolted everything in, and I've got everything doubled up here. So the reason why you see 2 different pieces of wood is because I actually ran out of wood. The wood height is 40 inches, but again, that fits my height. You, depending on your height, you might need to make that taller or shorter. Again, it's something that you kind of want to look at. But to give you, a basis of a guide here, this sits right below my waist. So for me, I found that that was kind of the sweet spot for this. Now, you can use 2 2x4s or you can use a 2x6. It doesn't really matter. I actually like the fact that the frame starts off with a 2x4 and finishes down here with a 2x6. It makes things a little bit wider. It doesn't really matter what you use, either 2x4s or 2x6s. But the leverage bar, I think, is a really integral piece to actually using the whole setup properly. The last thing to do, now that I've got everything done, is to put the belt on and actually get rolling. So all that I have here is just an old weightlifting belt. This is something I've had for years. When I first started my gym, before I upgraded to a Pioneer belt, and I don't have a belt squat belt. But if you do, then just use that. If you don't, if you got an old belt laying around, all this is just a connector chain that I use for my chains. So I've got a 4-foot connector chain, and then I have my old weight belt. And I just wrap the chain around the front when I get ready to squat. I don't tighten the belt. I keep it fairly loose to give a little bit of slack. And then I wrap the chain around to where I have each end being at an equal point, so I don't get things pulling one way or another. So here I'm set up and equal. I'm right in the middle. I'll come over, I'll connect. You'll notice I have to bend down a little bit. And that's what you want. You want to have a little bit of wiggle room here, a little bit of slack, so that when you actually stand up, you can remove your kickstand set your kickstand down and look at this, right? My leverage bar is pretty much flush with the 45-pound weights at my height here. With my long arms, I always actually extend this out a little bit more, but you can get yourself set up. I've got my leverage bar here, and then all I do is take a squat, come down, straight back up. Take another squat, come straight back up. So I've got a lot of flexibility, a lot of room here, and that leverage bar allows me to really target quads, glutes, everything else that you want to target and train, and you get all the same benefits from an actual belt squat machine right from your leverage arm. Once you're done, I take the kickstand, realign it with the rubber stop, set it down, make sure that my leverage bar doesn't move. I disconnect my chains, and I can move on to the next. So that's it in terms of how everything's set up. You can see it's not real hard. The most important thing, the thing that makes this happen is you got to swap out the bolts and get the hitch pins. The hitch pins allows you to really transform these lever arms into just about anything you want. So that would be the first place that I would say you got to start if you decide to go this route. It's something that, for me at least, has really opened up a lot of possibilities, including the belt squat. Now, you don't have to do a post on each side. You could also do a post on top. If you didn't want to disassemble the other lever arm, you could always do that. But I liked the double post option because it kept the weight, in my opinion, more uniform. So that's why I liked it. But you do have some wiggle room. You got some options to choose. So I hope that you found this video useful. If you got any questions, reach out to me on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook. Shoot me an email, morninglifter@gmail.com. Visit the website, morninglifter.com. Feel free to ask any questions. And until then, we'll see you next time.